Hi, everybody, and welcome back. I would like to start off by apologizing by the little bit of delay we've got on starting these sessions. So if you're excited for speed networking, don't worry, we have another session later on, and we've also got fluid space. If you've not been accustomed with fluid space, it's super cool. It's kind of like BMO. You can walk around, you can have organic conversation, so you'll still get all the networking that you were hoping for today. But I will not take up anybody's time any longer. I am super excited to introduce Josh onto the stage. Josh Lamar, I'm going to bring you on stage now. Hi, Josh, and
Hello.
welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, Josh, I'm going to let you introduce yourself because there's no way that I could do it any better. Your background is absolutely incredible. So please tell our amazing audience all about you.
My name is Josh Lamar. I've been doing user experience for the last 18 years. 12 of those were at Microsoft, and then I started my own UX research and design company in 2019. So I've been doing research on innovative products for the last 18 years, and that's really what I want to talk about today.
Awesome. Well, in that case, I'm gonna get off stage and leave you to it.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining me. I'm going to let's see. Can you all see my slides? Theoretically, you should be able to see them. Um, I already told you a little bit about me. Yep. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm going to talk a little bit about UX and kind of like what UX is and is it a barrier? I don't think so. That's hopefully what I'm going to try to prove to you is that it's actually not. And then I'm going to talk about how we can optimize UX for speed and building a culture around innovation. And this is really coming from a place of my goal is to really impart knowledge here. It's not just to give you information, but this is coming from ideas that I have developed over the past 18 years um, and really trying to simplify things that are really complex because it's very easy to make UX really complex. And I want to actually make it simple because there's some things that we can do to think about it. And now this is the way to kind of approach in a holistic way. So um, there's some stuff about me. Anyway, I'm going to skip that one for now. So let's start with this idea that UX is actually the barrier. I was asking a friend of mine who is a fellow CEO of a company, and I asked him, hey, what do you think about UX? He said, UX is the barrier. What? Really? You know who you are if you're watching. And as I dug into to learn some more about that, there's this perception that UX takes a long time. It's really slow. It's a thing that gets in the way of being able to build a user-centered product. And the difficulty, of course, is that yes, it can take a long time if you let it. But if you plan ahead and you find some creative solutions and just build it into your process, it actually isn't slow. So I want to pause and just tell you a story. This is about 2010, and I was at the time I was working at Bing, and this is in the middle of the Web 2.0 kind of thing going on, and we were looking at some innovative, cool ideas for how you could do searching differently. And what was interesting about this particular project was that over the course of about a year, I did about 8 different studies in a row to try to understand this solution that we were trying to develop to see if people would want to use it. And I would do a research study, and I would like find, okay, well, people don't want to use this. What if we change it this way? And then they're like, no, they don't do this. They don't care about this. They want to do something over here. But what can we do to the product? And when you start from this perspective of trying to adjust the product to get to what people want, you're still starting from the point of the product. And over the course of the year, we kept shifting and changing, and eventually the product was canceled, which it absolutely should have been, because the product really wasn't something that people wanted. And this really stuck with me over the years. And as I grew in my career and continued to develop, I found that it's really important to actually think about it. And this is, again, this is super simple. basic stuff, but this is what's really come out. So UX is what exists in the space between people and technology. There is stuff that we can do to learn how to understand technology, and stuff, I mean research and design and user-centered design. And there's stuff that we can do to learn about people and the problems that they have. And the UX is this messy part in the middle because we're trying to make sense of things, and we're also trying to create something that's going to be valuable to people. It's also based on the idea that doing the right thing for your customers is the same thing as doing the right thing for the business. And this is a thing that is really difficult to initially kind of move your head around, because when you're starting from a business idea, of course you want people to use it. And of course you want people to use your product and you make money doing that. And this is what was happening at the time when I was working on this aforementioned product. It was a business idea in search of a user need. And the more that I learned about the customers that were using the product, the more that we learned that the product idea was just not a good one. There's also this idea of invisibility, because the experience that we create using technology should really be invisible. And by invisible, I mean that we shouldn't have to think about how to use technology. We should really, the technology should get out of the way. And when it gets out of the way, we can focus on whatever the goal is that we have. Now, later in my career at Microsoft, I was the research manager for Outlook. So I use a lot of email examples because I can talk about the email in my sleep and all the research email. So if you were to think about email from a perspective of invisibility, and productivity software always falls into this category. What people aren't thinking, like, I need to open up a new email, I need to type in the send, and I need to type a subject, and I need to type a letter, and then I'm going to hit the send button. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about, I just want to talk to my mom, or I need to communicate with my coworker. They're not thinking about all the individual steps of how to get there. And so the more that we can take UX and abstract out all of those little steps so that people can really focus on their goals, the better it's going to be and the better the experience is going to be. And what's amazing about UX is that the process is going to be the same with any new technology. And that's really exciting because UX allows us a toolkit, or a bunch of different paint buckets of different colors. And you can apply that paint to different situations or use different tools to try to uncover what's really going on and what matters when it comes to your customers, and what you should do to your product in order to make it more valuable for them. So we can take this toolkit and we're going to put together what I like to call the epistemological line of sight. And this is something that when I'm working with a new client, this is one of the most important things to come up with for me. And that's because epistemologically, which is a big word for saying the theory of knowledge, or how we know what is true. So, how do we know that the product is successful? How do we know that the product is good, or that it solves problems that your customers have? There should really be this epistemological line of sight, a very clear direction between the person, the problem they have, and the solution that you are building, which is your product. It's very, very simple. And yet, this is something that is constantly done the wrong way, because we start with the solution in mind, as what happened in my previous example. We start with the solution, and then we go back and we reverse engineer the audience and the problem in order to fit this brilliant solution. Now, this is the state of NFTs, of Web3, of technology right now. Technology continues to develop, and we have cool things that we can do with it. But that doesn't mean that people have a need for that particular technology. And actually, something just came up, but I realized that I forgot to ask you my poll. So I'm gonna pull the poll up and show the poll on stage. Yeah, yeah, yeah. what do you think about UX? I'm really curious as to where the audience is at right here. So back to this idea that, whoop, well, poll disappeared. Um, let's see if it comes back up. Nope. All right. Well, anyway, the idea is that we're coming to creating new technology from this idea of creating a solution. But the solution really needs to be, oh, there we go. 90% of you, which are 10 of you, say that UX saves the world. One person said sometimes help, and no one said it's a barrier. Okay, great. Well, I'm preaching to the choir at this at this moment then, which is also okay. It's also okay. Um, so let's talk about the logical thought process of UX. The idea behind all of what we're trying to do is that your product offers an easy, efficient, and delightful solution to a problem that your customers have better than your competitors so that they spend time using your product. And usage and time spent using your product equals money. So this is just the kind of the basics of like where we're coming from when it comes to why we spend time trying to develop products that solve people's needs. And when you break it out a little differently, you can actually see that each of these things, each of these words or phrases relate to a different aspect of user experience: usability, efficiency, desirability, utility, engagement, usage, adoption, retention rates. All of these things come together to help us evaluate whether or not the product that we're building is going to be successful for the user, for the audience, for whoever it is that we're thinking about. And you can actually map these out in a holistic measurement strategy, which again, this is the thing that I do with my clients, because I want to make sure that we understand very holistically what's going on. And if you look at the 2x2 here, it's between qualitative and quantitative research. Qualitative at the top, and then quantitative at the bottom. And then we have what people say on the left, which are goals and attitudes, and what people do and their behaviors on the right. And again, this is an oversimplification, but I've kind of mapped some of the different disciplines that are here. So you might have user research or design or market research or PMM or data science. And each of these different disciplines is gathering a different type of data that allows them to analyze how good the product is from a different perspective. And this is really beautiful. And this is actually one of the best cases for diversity on your team, because you want to have people from diverse backgrounds, diverse disciplinary backgrounds, but also just from different countries and languages and sexual orientations and ethnicities. Because when you have all of these different people coming from different perspectives, you're looking at this product in the middle and you're saying, okay, we're going to build this product. But these different perspectives actually can cause us to think the product is different than what it is. So I like to call this the negotiation zone of negotiated product truth, because essentially the the balance is going to be between these three factors: the business, the technology, and the user experience. So we talked about the business before. It's what people will purchase. And we might have ideas about things that people might want to purchase, but that has to be balanced out with the technology and what the technology is able to do. And very oftentimes, it might actually not be possible to do something, or it might be really expensive to do something, even if it is possible. And then there's the experience, which is what people think that they want. And then there's also kind of what they actually need, which are a little nuances there of the user experience. But these three factors, the business, experience, and the technology, have to all come together and be talking about the same thing, the same product that we are building. And when that works, it's great. But when it's out of alignment, it doesn't work. And so I wanted to also bring up that if you maybe you've heard this the Sufi story of the blind man and the elephant. And to simplify the story, the idea is that different members of the tribe come across an elephant, but they're all blind. So they grab a different part. One person grabs the trunk of the elephant and says, "Oh, it's like a snake." Another person grabs a leg and says, "Oh, it's like a tree trunk." And of course, the interesting part here, and I'm drawing from Donella Meadows' Thinking in Systems here. She says that the simple lesson is really something that we ignore, that the behavior of a system cannot be known just by knowing the elements of which the system is made. Now, this is exactly what's going on when we're creating products, because as we create products, we actually are looking at the product, the elephant, through the different lenses of the different parts of the system. So we come together in order to make sense of that, but we have to do that together. And I like to think of how we do that together as King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, where we are all seated around the table. Each discipline has a different perspective, and together we make sense of what is true for the product or what success looks like for the product. Again, that holistic measurement strategy. And the culture that we set up to create is how we allow these values that we agree on and how we make decisions about the product. So let's come back to this idea of, if we're working together and we're trying to make sense of the product in the context of technology, of new technology, of working together on teams, how can we start optimizing for making it faster? So the first place to start is to come up with a user-centered goal and then align on how each discipline will holistically evaluate what success looks like. We have to be going in the same direction. And when we have different disciplines or different perspectives on what the goal of the product is, we're going to be going in lots of different directions. So starting with a single direction of who it is that we're building for, the most important problem that they have, and the solution being the product, your product that you are building to help them. And then it just becomes a matter of building processes to gather data, to brainstorm ideas, to test ideas, and then make decisions together. Each discipline and each person is responsible for an understanding of the product through their own lens, through the data that they have access to, through the data that you gather and make sense of, in order to create this product that's actually going to be really valuable and really useful for the people. Growth mindset is an important part of all of this process. And if you're not familiar, Carol Dweck wrote a book on growth mindset, but this idea that instead of having a fixed perception of reality, that you have a moldable perception of reality. I figure this out. I can learn how to build this. I can learn and can grow, and we can adapt together. It's being okay with failure, because the more that we fail, the more that we learn something. And I think this quote by Edison is absolutely the best way to approach it. I have not failed. I found 10,000 ways that won't work. And the thing is that as we learn, understanding what not to do is just as important as understanding what to do. Because as we are building products, we have to understand what really matters to the people that we're building it for. And if we learn that something doesn't matter, it's this idea of starting with the goal, starting with what they care about, and then building it based on that, as opposed to starting with the solution first. And there are times that we continue failing. And when new technology is introduced, things like Lawyer Cat happen, which was probably my favorite moment of levity during the entire pandemic. And what Lawyer Cat tells me is that we are able to come up with new technology, that we're going to use it and we're going to implement it very quickly in order to learn. And yet the world is not necessarily always ready for that technology to be there. And that when we introduce new things, it's important to bring all of the customers up to speed along with the progress and the process of that technology. We are still learning collectively. When we get to the here it is, the product adoption curve. You can talk about the chasm between the early adopters and then the early and late majority. And what happens here is crossing this chasm is really difficult, and especially difficult when you have new technology, because new technology, again, we have all of these new things that we're trying to create. But in order to get past this adoption curve to really become into the mainstream, it's going to have to be easy to use. Again, easy to use, that's usability, efficiency, utility. It solves a problem that people have. And so the real goal of UX is to align the problems that people have with the amazing, brilliant solution of the technology and your product that you're creating. And each one of you here is playing an active part in doing that, which is so inspiring. As Jeffrey Moore talks about here, the single most important difference between urban markets and mainstream markets is that the former are willing to take responsibility for piecing together the whole product. This is what's going on here, because in an early product, it's really difficult because people are not really good at doing things that computers are really good at. And so computers can do things like calculations and like numbers. Like, we're not good at that. We're not good at that. We might have to create something by pulling different pieces of the experience from different places, and kind of the onus is on the user to really pull it all together and make sense of it. And as we are building towards a broader market adoption, it's so important to be able to make it usable by everybody, that the system does the work so that the user doesn't have to. Which brings me to the adjacent possible, the shadow future, hovering on the edges of the present state of things. Uh, what I love about this idea of the adjacent possible is that we are on the verge of it right now, that we already have the building blocks, and those building blocks come together in a new way to make sense of the world. When we talk about the most innovative products out there, like people talk about the iPhone, and the iPhone, yes, of course, it was innovative, but it wasn't doing anything that we weren't already aware of at the time that it was created. We took a cell phone and the internet and we said, okay, let's put these make it the same thing. And it was brilliant and it worked out. And like, that was a really amazing time. But those things existed. And what's happening right now is that these building blocks are all here and they all exist in a way that we just have to recombine them in new ways in order to build that better future. As Isaac Newton said, if I have seen farther, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. The giants are already out there. We're already all here. It's just, how can we take this idea and that we have, this vision that we have for the future, and make it more commonplace, make it available for everybody. So bringing this back to where we're at now, NFTs are a technology. It's seeking application to a solution. And that solution is important that it works for the audience without them understanding the back end. Because again, technology can be difficult for a lot of people. And yet it can just work when it can pull the pieces together. Suddenly you're creating a solution that people need with the back end of technology that is building a better future for everybody. So let's revisit this idea that UX is not something that gets in the way. UX is actually the opportunity to draw this line of sight between the problems that people have and the solutions that we are building. That is it. Thank you very much. I don't know if I have time for Q&A, but I will stay on and take as much Q&A as I can. Also, I have my contact information up here. I'm going to put my contact in the chat as well. If you're interested in these slides, I can send them to you. I also have a paper that I've written on inclusive design and how you can create more technology inclusively. And I'm going to take a look at the Q&A. Hello.
Hi, Josh. That was absolutely incredible. And I think the audience absolutely loved it as well. Like, I could probably go click through some of the comments here. So well stated. Everybody's just, I'm enjoying this talk so much. Easily the best talk
Good.
yet. So absolutely amazing. And I think I learned a lot there as well. Hopefully there's a few developers in the Web3 space that got the notebook out and made notes there too. I think we could probably do one question. It's not going to hurt anybody, is it? So I'll pop this on stage. Aside from user experience, what are the main barriers to mass adoption?
Learning and understanding and knowledge. I think that especially when it doesn't make sense to people, that they're going to be really uh, careful and cautious around how they implement new technology. I think that it comes down to, can I trust this? And so research in trustworthy like technology. Can I trust this? Is my money safe? What is the benefit to me? I think that that's kind of the other barrier to the adoption, because you shouldn't have to learn the technology in order to use a product that solves a problem that you have. The technology piece should be invisible, but if people are wary or it's too new or they just don't know enough, then they need to feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, definitely. And at the beginning, when you said that it should be invisible, and it's so true. You shouldn't really know that it's there. You should just be very seamless. And unfortunately, that is all that we've got time for. But Josh has put his information up the top there. Connect with him on LinkedIn. Have a look at his company, Amplinate, and ask any more questions you can with him privately. But before we quickly leave, I just want to give one quick shout out to one of our sponsors. One Web3 company that I actually feel Josh does have a lot of UX UI put into it, and that's Venly. So they are a wallet. So if you want your wallet and NFT products that seamlessly integrate with blockchain project, then check out their booth. It's all linked to this as well. And Josh, you should check it out as well. You can just use your Google or Facebook or whatever to log in. So it just seems like you're logging into your email, which is exactly what people want.
Exactly. Make it easy.
Awesome. Absolutely. Josh, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you, amazing audience. Go grab yourself a coffee and I'll see you back in 10 minutes.
Thank you, everybody.